The rain hammered against the palace windows like 1,000 tiny fists. Inside, the marble halls glowed under crystal chandeliers, but the light felt cold. Security guard James Mitchell stood at his post near the East Wing corridor, his eyes scanning the shadows between pillars. 23 years he'd worked here. 23 years of watching, waiting, protecting. He knew every sound this building made. The creak of the old oak doors, the echo of footsteps on stone, the whisper of fabric against walls. Tonight, something felt wrong. It was nearly midnight when he saw her. Camilla, the queen consort, moving through the corridor with unusual speed. Her coat was pulled tight around her body. One arm pressed against her chest as if holding something beneath the fabric. James straightened. Members of the royal family didn't usually walk these halls alone at night. They had staff. They had schedules. They had protocols. She glanced over her shoulder twice. Her face was pale in the dim light, her jaw set in a way that made James's instincts kick in. He'd seen that look before, on people carrying secrets they shouldn't be carrying. If you're finding this story as intriguing as I am telling it, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. James stepped forward, his boots clicking softly on the marble. "Ma'am!" Camilla froze. For a split second, her eyes went wide, caught like a deer in headlights. Then she composed herself, smoothing her expression into something resembling calm. But James had already seen the fear. "Yes, James?" Her voice was steady, but her hand tightened on whatever she held beneath her coat. "It's late, ma'am. Can I escort you somewhere? Is everything all right?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Just restless. "Thought a walk might help." James nodded slowly. In 23 years, he'd learned to read people. The queen consort was many things, but a liar she was not. "Until tonight, of course, ma'am." He paused, watching her carefully. "Though, I should mention, protocol requires that I ask about any items being transported through secured areas after hours." The color drained from her face. Her hand moved instinctively, protectively over the bulge beneath her coat. James could see the edge of something now. Brown leather. A folder, maybe. Or a small case. "It's nothing," she said quickly. Too quickly. "Just some personal papers?" "Personal papers, ma'am?" The silence stretched between them like a rope pulled taut. Rain continued to pound against the windows. Somewhere distant, a clock chimed the quarter hour. Camilla's eyes searched his face, weighing something James couldn't name. Trust, maybe. Or desperation. "James," she said softly, stepping closer. "How long have you worked here?" 23 years, ma'am. Then you understand loyalty. You understand that sometimes the right thing and the legal thing aren't always the same." His heart began to beat faster. What was she asking him? "Ma'am, if there's something wrong, there's nothing wrong." But her voice cracked on the last word. "I just need to get these somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't be found." Can't be found. The words hung in the air like smoke. James felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Whatever was in that folder, it mattered. It mattered enough for the queen consort to risk walking through palace halls at midnight. It mattered enough for her to lie. "What's in the papers, ma'am?" Camilla's hand trembled slightly as she clutched her coat tighter. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it. Her eyes glistened, and James realized with shock that she was fighting back tears. "The truth," she whispered finally. "The truth that could destroy everything." James felt his mouth go dry. Destroy everything. Those weren't words someone spoke lightly. Especially not here. Especially not her.
Oh.
"Perhaps we should speak somewhere more private." Camilla shook her head quickly, her eyes darting down the corridor. "No, too many cameras. Too many years." She looked at him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. "James, I need you to make a choice right now. You can follow protocol, report this, do everything by the book, or you can trust me." Trust, that word again. In 23 years, James had trusted the system, the rules, the chain of command. Now, standing in a midnight corridor with rain hammering outside, he was being asked to throw all of that away. "How can I trust what I don't understand?" he asked quietly. Camilla glanced behind her again, then stepped closer. close enough that he could see the fine lines of worry etched around her eyes. 3 weeks ago, someone placed documents in my private study. Documents I was never meant to see. Financial records, communications, proof of things that should never have happened. What kind of things? Her hand moved to the folder beneath her coat. The kind that involve people in very high places. People who would do anything to keep them hidden. James felt a chill run down his spine. Ma'am, if there's evidence of wrongdoing, there are proper channels. The proper channels are compromised. Her voice was sharp now, urgent. Don't you understand? Whoever put these in my study did it because they knew I'd find them. They knew I'd want to do the right thing. But they also knew that the moment I report this through official means, these papers disappear. Evidence vanishes. People get silenced. People get silenced, James repeated slowly. Ma'am, are you in danger? Camilla's silence was answer enough. His mind raced. This was beyond his pay grade. Beyond his training. This was the kind of situation that ruined careers, or worse. But looking at her face, seeing the genuine fear there, he couldn't just walk away. Where are you trying to take them? Relief flooded her features. There's a journalist. Someone trustworthy. Independent. He's expecting a package to be delivered to a specific location tomorrow morning. If these documents reach him, they'll be published. Protected. The truth will come out before anyone can stop it. And if they don't reach him, then the truth stays buried. And the people who put these in my study, whoever they are, they'll know I didn't act. They'll think I'm complicit. Or worse, they'll think I'm a coward. James studied her face. In all his years here, he'd never seen her look so vulnerable. So human. What do you need from me? Camilla pulled the folder out slowly, carefully. It was thick, bound with leather straps, official-looking. The kind of folder that held important things. Dangerous things. The East Gate. There's a car waiting there, a private vehicle with a driver I trust. But to get there, I have to pass through 3 security checkpoints. 3 chances for someone to stop me, to ask questions, to report back to whoever's watching. You want me to help you get past security? I want you to help me do what's right. James felt the weight of the decision pressing on his chest. His pension, his reputation, his entire life built on following rules. All of it could disappear with one wrong choice. But then he thought about what she'd said. The truth that could destroy everything. What if that destruction was necessary? What if some things needed to break before they could be fixed? Ma'am, if I do this, if I help you, I need your word that these documents are what you say they are. That this isn't about politics or revenge or settling scores. I need to know this matters. Milla looked him straight in the eye. James, if what's in this folder becomes public, it will shake the foundations of institutions people trust. It will hurt people I care about. It might even hurt me, but it's the truth. And I was raised to believe that truth, no matter how painful, is better than comfortable lies. The rain outside seemed to grow louder. Matching the pounding of James's heart, he made his decision. Give me the folder. Camilla blinked. What? If you're stopped carrying that, it's over. But if I'm carrying it, I'm just a guard transporting secured documents. No one questions me. Hope and fear warred on her face. James, if you're caught, then I'm caught. He held out his hand. But we won't be. Not if we're smart about this. She hesitated only a moment before placing the folder in his hands. It was heavier than he expected. The weight of truth, he thought grimly. Stay here for 5 minutes, he instructed. Then return to your quarters using the main corridor. Be seen. Let people know you were just taking a late walk. And you? James tucked the folder into his uniform jacket, buttoning it carefully. I'm about to take the most important walk of my life. James moved through the corridor with measured steps. Not too fast. Not too slow. Just a guard doing his rounds. The folder pressed against his chest like a second heartbeat, hot and insistent. The first checkpoint came quickly. Young officer named Peters, barely out of training. He nodded as James approached. Evening, sir. Late rounds? Routine inspection, James replied, keeping his voice casual. Thought I heard something near the east wing. Probably just the storm, but checking it out. Peters glanced at the rain-soaked windows. Wild night for it. That's why they pay me the big money. James smiled, and Peters laughed, waving him through. 1 down. 2 to go. The second checkpoint was harder. Officer Davidson had been here almost as long as James. She knew the protocols. She knew when something was off. James. She stood from her desk as he approached. What are you doing over here? East Wing isn't your sector tonight. He'd prepared for this. Covering for Matthews. His daughter's in hospital. Emergency appendix surgery. I told him I'd handle his sector. Davidson's expression softened. Oh, poor kid. She... okay? They caught it in time. But you know how it is. Family first. She nodded, understanding. Yeah, of course. Go ahead. James felt the folder shift slightly as he walked past. His heart hammered so loud he was certain she could hear it. But Davidson just returned to her desk, already pulling out her phone to probably text Matthews's wife her well wishes. 2 down, 1 to go. The third checkpoint was at the East Gate itself, and it was staffed by Captain Reynolds. James's stomach dropped. Reynolds was old school. Former military, by the book. The kind of man who'd report his own mother if she violated protocol. There was no smooth talking his way past Reynolds. He approached slowly, buying time to think. Reynolds stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching James with the careful attention of a hawk watching a mouse. Mitchell, Captain, it's unusual to see you this far from your post. Here it was, the moment of truth. James could feel the folder against his skin, hot and damning. One wrong word and everything fell apart. Sir, I need to transport a secured document to the East Gate exit. Time sensitive. Reynolds' eyebrows rose slightly. Secured document? At midnight? Who authorized this? James's mind raced. He couldn't name Camilla. But he needed authority. Someone Reynolds wouldn't question? The document concerns royal security protocols, sir. The authorization came from the private secretary's office. Emergency review required before morning briefing. It was plausible. Just plausible enough. Reynolds stared at him for a long moment. I'll need to see the authorization form. James's blood ran cold. Sir, with respect, the document itself is classified. I was instructed to transport it directly. No intermediate handling. Then you should have an escort. Security protocol for classified materials requires 2 officers minimum. Under normal circumstances, but given the sensitive nature, Mitchell, are you arguing with me? The air between them grew thick. James could feel sweat forming on his back. The folder seemed to pulse against his chest like a living thing, screaming to be discovered. He made a choice. Sometimes the truth worked better than lies. Captain, I need you to trust me. Reynolds' expression didn't change. Trust you. I've worked here 23 years. You've known me for 15 of them. Have I ever, even once, violated protocol without good reason? There's a first time for everything, sir. There is. James held Reynolds' gaze. And this is important enough to be that first time. Silence. The rain outside had stopped, leaving only the sound of water dripping from gutters. In the distance, a clock began to chime. Midnight had passed. It was a new day. Reynolds stepped closer. His voice dropped low. Mitchell, if you're in trouble, now's the time to say so. Whatever this is, we can handle it properly. But if you walk out that gate with unauthorized materials, I know the consequences, sir. Do you? Reynolds' eyes searched his face. Because I'm looking at a man about to throw away his entire career. His pension. His reputation, all of it. For what? James thought about Camilla's words, the truth that could destroy everything. He thought about the fear in her eyes, the weight of the folder against his chest. For what's right, sir. Reynolds stood perfectly still. Then, slowly, he stepped aside. I didn't see you tonight, Mitchell. James felt his knees almost buckle with relief. Sir, my shift ends in 10 minutes. I'm going home. Whatever happens after that, it's the next watch's problem. Reynolds' voice was carefully neutral. But Mitchell, whatever you're doing, you better be damn sure it's worth it. I am, sir. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm not helping you. I'm just old and tired and ready to go home. But there was something in Reynolds' eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or respect. James moved past him toward the east gate. His hands shook as he entered the security code. The door clicked open, and cold night air rushed in, smelling of rain and earth and freedom. Outside, just as Camilla had said, a dark car waited with its engine running. James walked toward it, each step feeling both too fast and too slow. The driver's window rolled down. An older man with kind eyes looked out. Package for delivery? James pulled the folder from his jacket and handed it through the window. It left his hands, and suddenly he could breathe again. Important package, the driver said, tucking it carefully into a bag beside him. You're a brave man, or a foolish one. The driver smiled. Sometimes they're the same thing. He paused. She said you might need a ride somewhere. Somewhere away from here for a while. James looked back at the palace. His life was in there. His routine. His safety. He climbed into the car. The car pulled away from the palace gates. And James watched through the rear window as the only life he'd known for 23 years grew smaller in the distance. The stone walls. The guards. The routine that had defined him. Where are we going? He asked. The driver glanced at him in the mirror. Safe house. About 40 minutes north. You'll stay there until morning. After that, your choice. James nodded, not really hearing. His mind was already racing ahead, calculating consequences. By dawn, someone would notice irregularities in the security logs. By noon, they'd know he'd been at the East Gate. By evening, they'd connect him to Camilla. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, expecting nothing. But the message made his blood freeze. Unknown number. 5 words. We know what you did. The driver's eyes found his in the mirror. Problem? James stared at the message. We know, but who was we? And how did they know so fast? Someone's tracking me. His voice came out hollow. They know about the folder. The driver's expression didn't change, but his hands tightened on the wheel. Expected. They've probably been monitoring her for weeks, maybe months. The moment she moved that folder, alarms went off somewhere. So what do? Nothing. You've already done it. The folder's secure. By morning, it'll be in the journalist's hands. By afternoon, the story breaks. After that, it doesn't matter what they know. The truth's already out. But James's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Another message came through. Turn around now. There's still time to fix this. Then another, think about your daughter, James. His breath caught. Sarah, his daughter, 24 years old, working as a teacher in London. Sweet Sarah, who called him every Sunday without fail. The driver saw his face change. What? They mentioned my daughter. Threats. Not yet. But the implication. James's finger hovered over the call button. He needed to warn her. Needed to make sure she was safe. The driver's hand shot out, covering James's phone. Don't. The moment you contact her, you confirm they've gotten to you. You show weakness, and they'll use that. She's my daughter, and she's safe. For now, they're not interested in her. They're interested in scaring you, making you doubt, making you turn around. The driver's voice was firm, but not unkind. I've seen this before. These people, they play psychological games. They make you think they're everywhere, that they can hurt everyone you love. But the truth is, they're desperate. The folder's already gone. They've lost. This is just them thrashing around, trying to maintain control. James wanted to believe that. God, he wanted to believe it. But the messages kept coming. Your pension is gone. Arrest warrant being prepared. Last chance to cooperate. He turned off his phone with shaking hands. They drove in silence for a while, winding through dark country roads. Rain started again, light at first, then heavier. The headlights cut through the darkness like knives. Can I ask you something? James said finally. Sure, the journalist. The one receiving the folder? Who is he? Can we trust him? The driver was quiet for a moment. His name is Marcus Chen. Been investigating financial corruption in government institutions for 15 years. Lost his job at a major newspaper 5 years ago because he wouldn't drop a story they didn't want published. Been independent ever since. Lives on donations and his own savings. The kind of man who believes truth matters more than comfort. And you know him how? Because I used to be like you. Security. Different place. Different time. But I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Made a choice to do something about it. Marcus helped me then. He'll help now. James absorbed this. What happened after? To you, I mean? After you went public. The driver's smile was sad. Lost everything I thought mattered. Job. Friends. Wife left me. Spent 2 years looking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows. But eventually, the truth came out. People who needed to be held accountable were held accountable. And I learned to sleep at night again. Was it worth it? Ask me again in 5 years. I'll have a better answer. They pulled into a small cottage set back from the road. No lights, no signs of life. The driver killed the engine. Stay inside. Don't use your phone. Don't contact anyone. In the morning, someone will bring you newspapers. You'll read what Marcus publishes. After that, we'll figure out next steps. James climbed out of the car, his legs stiff. Wait, I don't even know your name. The driver looked at him through the window. Sometimes it's better that way. Safer for both of us. He paused. But for what it's worth, you did good tonight, James Mitchell. Most people wouldn't have? The car disappeared into the darkness, leaving James standing in front of the cottage alone. He found a key under the mat just as the driver had said. Inside, the place was sparse, but clean. A bed, a chair, a small kitchen, and a television. James turned it on, flipping to the news. Nothing yet. Just normal programming. Weather reports. Sports scores. A world that didn't know it was about to change. He sat in the chair, exhaustion finally catching up with him. His phone sat dark and silent on the table, full of threats he couldn't answer. His life sat in ruin somewhere behind him. His future sat uncertain somewhere ahead. But in his chest, where the folder had pressed against his heart, there was something else. Something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. He'd done the right thing. Whatever came next, he could live with that. James closed his eyes and waited for morning. Morning came slowly, gray light creeping through the cottage windows. James hadn't really slept. Every sound outside made him jump. Every creak of the old building sent his heart racing. But nothing came. No police, no threats. Just silence and waiting. At 7 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. James froze. His hand instinctively went to his belt, but his security equipment was gone. He was just a man now. Just a person who'd made a dangerous choice. Delivery, a woman's voice called. He opened the door a crack. A young woman in a rain jacket stood there, holding a stack of newspapers. She didn't look at him directly, just thrust the papers forward. From Marcus, she said quietly. It's done. Then she was gone, dogging back to a bicycle propped against a tree. James closed the door with trembling hands and looked at the newspapers. 5 different publications, all major outlets. His eyes went to the front page of the first one. The headline hit him like a punch to the chest. Royal financial scandal uncovered. Secret documents reveal misuse of public funds below it. In smaller text, exclusive investigation by Marcus Chen reveals systematic financial irregularities involving senior officials and protected institutions. James sank into the chair. Spreading the newspapers across the table, each one carried the story. Each one had different angles, different focuses, but they all traced back to the documents in that leather folder. The story was massive. Funds meant for public services diverted to private accounts. Shell companies set up to hide transactions. Officials using their positions to enrich themselves while cutting programs that helped ordinary people. Names James recognized. Positions he'd guarded. Faces he'd seen walking those palace corridors, and through it all, carefully woven, was the protection of the source. Documents obtained by this reporter through a confidential source close to the royal household. No mention of Camilla. No mention of James's phone, which he'd turned back on with shaking hands. Began to ring. Unknown number, he almost didn't answer. But something made him pick up. James Mitchell. A woman's voice, crisp and professional. Yes. My name is Patricia Holmes. I'm a solicitor. The Queen Consort has retained me to represent you, should you need legal assistance in the coming days. James felt his throat tighten. She did. She anticipated there might be consequences for those who helped bring the truth to light. She wanted to ensure you weren't left vulnerable. Pause. Mr. Mitchell, you should know that Palace Security has already issued a statement saying you're being investigated for breach of protocol. They're trying to discredit you before you can tell your side. I don't have a side. I just did what was right. It's exactly what you'll say if they question you. Nothing more, nothing less. Don't elaborate. Don't speculate. And don't speak to anyone without me present. Am I going to be arrested? Patricia's voice softened slightly. Possibly. But here's what they're not telling the public. The moment this story broke, 3 senior officials resigned. 2 more are under investigation. The government is scrambling to distance itself from the scandal. They need a scapegoat, and you're convenient. But they also know that arresting the man who exposed corruption looks terrible, especially now that public sentiment is turning. James looked at the newspapers again. What about her? The Queen Consort. Is she safe? She's handling the situation. There are questions, of course. How did the documents reach her? Why didn't she go through official channels? But she's being careful. Strategic. And the public largely sees her as someone who chose truth over comfort. That carries weight. A knock at the door interrupted them. James's heart stopped. Someone's here, he whispered. Don't answer. I'll call you back. The line went dead. The knocking came again, more insistent. James Mitchell, this is Metropolitan Police. We need you to open the door. This was it. The moment he'd been dreading. James stood slowly, walking to the door on legs that felt like water. He could run, climb out a back window, disappear into the countryside, but that would make him look guilty. And he wasn't guilty. He'd done the right thing. He opened the door. 2 officers stood there, their expressions neutral. Behind them, he could see 3 police cars. They weren't taking chances. James Mitchell, we're placing you under arrest on suspicion of theft of protected documents and breach of security protocols. You have the right to remain silent. The words washed over him as they cuffed his hands. One of the officers was gentler than necessary, he noticed. The other looked uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact. They led him to one of the cars. As they drove, James looked back at the cottage. At the newspapers, still spread across the table. At the evidence of truth finally spoken. His phone buzzed in his pocket. The officers hadn't taken it yet. He glanced down at the screen, reading the message that appeared. It was from a number he didn't recognize, but he knew who it was from. You did a brave thing. History will remember it kindly. Stay strong. See Camilla. She'd found a way to reach him. James closed his eyes and leaned back against the seat. They could arrest him. They could question him. They could take his pension, his reputation, his freedom. But they couldn't take this moment. They couldn't erase what he'd done. The car pulled onto the main road, heading back toward London. Toward whatever came next. James watched the countryside roll by, knowing his old life was gone forever. But perhaps, he thought, that wasn't such a terrible thing after all. Asterisk, the interrogation room was exactly what James expected. Gray walls. Fluorescent lights. A metal table bolted to the floor. He'd seen rooms like this in training, had even sat in on a few interviews during his career. But being on this side of the table felt different. 2 detectives sat across from him. A man in his 50s, with tired eyes, and a younger woman who kept tapping her pen against her notepad. Patricia Holmes sat beside James, her briefcase open, a recorder running. Mr. Mitchell, the older detective began, we just want to understand what happened that night. Walk us through it. I saw someone who needed help. I helped them, someone being the queen consort. I'm not at liberty to say. The younger detective leaned forward. Mr. Mitchell, you were arrested leaving palace grounds with classified documents. Documents that somehow ended up in the hands of a journalist. That's not helping someone. That's theft. That's betrayal of your position. The documents exposed criminal activity, corruption, theft of public money. James kept his voice steady. I'd argue that keeping those documents hidden would have been the real betrayal. That's not your decision to make, the older detective said, but his tone was less harsh. There are proper channels. Oversight committees. Legal procedures. Procedures that were compromised by the very people who were being investigated. James looked him in the eye. Sir, with respect, if I'd followed proper channels, those documents would have disappeared. We both know that. Silence filled the room. The younger detective started to speak, but the older one held up his hand. Let's talk about something else. The driver who picked you up? Who was he? I don't know. You got into a car with a stranger and handed him classified documents. I got into a car with someone I chose to trust. That's not an answer. Patricia spoke up. My client has been cooperative. He's explained his actions. Unless you have specific evidence of criminal intent. Criminal intent? The younger detective's voice rose. He stole documents from the palace. He exposed corruption, Patricia countered. There's legal precedent for whistleblower protection when government wrongdoing is involved. It's not a whistleblower. He's a security guard who overstepped his authority. The older detective rubbed his temples. Let's take a break. They left the room. Patricia turned to James immediately. You're doing well. Stay calm. Stay consistent. How long can they hold me? 24 hours without charging you. After that, they either charge you or let you go. But James, you need to prepare yourself. Even if they let you go, your life has changed. Palace security will never take you back. Other security firms won't touch you. You'll be labeled as untrustworthy. I know. And he did. He'd known it the moment he took that folder from Camilla's hands. The door opened again. But it wasn't the detectives who walked in. It was a man in an expensive suit, carrying himself with the weight of authority. Mr. Mitchell, I'm Henry Ashford, representing the palace's legal interests. He didn't sit. Just stood there, looking down at James. I'm here to offer you a deal. Patricia's expression hardened. Any deal goes through me first? Ashford barely glanced at her. Recant your story. Say you were coerced, confused, acting under duress. Sign a non-disclosure agreement. In return, all charges are dropped. You receive a severance package and a letter of reference. James felt something cold settle in his stomach. And the truth? The truth is complicated. The investigations that started because of those leaked documents, they're causing chaos, instability. There are better ways to handle these matters. Quieter ways. Quieter ways that protect the guilty. Ashford's expression didn't change. Mr. Mitchell, you're not a hero. You're a man who made a repulsive decision and jeopardized national security. Take the deal. Move on with your life. And if I don't, then you'll be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. You'll lose everything. And for what? The story is already out. You've played your part. Now it's time to accept the consequences or accept mercy. James looked at Patricia. She gave the smallest shake of her head. Don't do it. He turned back to Ashford. I did what I thought was right. I'm not going to say otherwise just to make this easier for people who deserve to be uncomfortable. Ashford's jaw tightened. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. Ashford left without another word. The detectives returned shortly after, their expressions harder now. The interrogation continued for hours. The same questions, asked different ways. Looking for contradictions, looking for weakness. James gave them nothing. Finally, as evening approached, the older detective closed his notebook. Mr. Mitchell, you're being released pending further investigation. But don't leave London. We'll be in touch. Outside the police station, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. James kept his head down, Patricia guiding him to a waiting car. "You're all over the news," she said once they were inside. "Some calling you a hero, others calling you a traitor. The palace is trying to control the narrative, but public opinion is mixed. What do you think?" James asked. Patricia looked at him for a long moment. "I think you did something incredibly stupid and incredibly brave. And I think the next few months are going to be hell for you." A small smile touched her lips. But sometimes stupid, brave things are what change the world. She dropped him at a hotel, paid for by Camilla's legal fund. James checked in under a false name and collapsed onto the bed. His phone, finally returned to him, showed hundreds of messages. Most from numbers he didn't know. Some supportive, many threatening. But one message stood out. From Sarah, his daughter. "Dad, I saw the news. I'm so proud of you. Come stay with me until this blows over. I love you." James felt tears sting his eyes. He'd been so afraid of what she'd think, of disappointing her, of embarrassing her. But she understood. She saw past the headlines to what mattered. He typed back, "I love you too. I'll call tomorrow." Then he turned on the television. The evening news was leading with the scandal. More officials had resigned. Investigations were expanding. And slowly, carefully, the story was emerging of the security guard who'd risked everything to do the right thing. Marcus Chen appeared on screen, refusing to name his sources, but defending their actions. Sometimes, the people we should trust most are ordinary individuals who see something wrong and decide they can't look away. That's not betrayal. That's integrity. James turned off the television and walked to the window. London spread out before him, millions of lights against the darkness. Somewhere out there, Camilla was probably watching the same news, dealing with her own consequences. Somewhere out there, people were reading those documents, understanding what had been hidden from them. And somewhere out there, his old life was gone, but a new one was waiting to be built. James Mitchell had spent 23 years following rules, maintaining order, protecting secrets. In one night, he'd thrown all of that away. And standing there looking out at the city, he realized he'd never felt more free. The truth was out. The consequences would come, but he'd done what was right. And sometimes that was enough.